I just say before we start the process, I also want to let everyone know that Kevin, the developer for WRS, is also listening to the comments. But City, did you have anything that you'd like to say before?
Yes, I spoke to Spence this morning. First of all, thank you guys for inviting us again. It's good to see I recognize many of the faces because you guys participated in focus groups in the fall. Right off the bat, I want to make you aware, because we are in the formal comment period, this meeting is being recorded and the recording will be placed in the record for review by the Planning Commission and Council. Had a couple of emails with Spence. I very much appreciate you guys taking the time to look at that. So instead, I'm going to share my screen right now. I have a brief, basically 4 or 5 slide presentation just for some stuff that's really not discussed in the master plan that may help explain some certain things as you go through in case you wish to amend your comments that you've done. The first one right off the bat is I'd like to remind everybody, what is a master plan? So it's required by the state of Maryland for every jurisdiction, and it's composed of various elements such as land use, transportation, and sensitive areas. And as I highlighted here, it's to serve the general purpose of guiding and accomplishing the coordinated, adjusted, and harmonious development of the local jurisdiction. That is important because, again, the goal of the master plan is to look at development at what is best for the city. Master plans aren't written for any particular stakeholder group, any particular owner, or any particular developer. At the end of the day, it's looking at what are the goals of the city. At a minimum, and all that's truly required under the land use article, the Maryland Annotated Code, is land uses to establish the zoning and permitted land uses should redevelopment occur. And that's the important thing. And as we talked about, as you guys may remember, going back to the focus groups, there is an existing master plan recommendation and zoning recommendation for the Lake Forest Mall that's been in place since 2011. So why is this important? Well, it's the next bullet. Master plans do not make redevelopment happen. The property owners for any property covered under a master plan can reuse existing buildings. And in this particular case, it can stay a mall in perpetuity as long as the current zoning and subdivision is abided by. So I want to make sure we just remember that context. And again, this is important because if we could already, change stuff, the master plan written, approved 10 years ago would have already done it. So let's just make sure we keep that in mind. So again, just as you guys, and I really appreciate, hearing that you went through all 67 pages. It's great that you looked at projections. But just as a background, again, this master plan was derived from technical studies, from existing data sets such as Census and American Community Survey, 14 focus group meetings, of which you guys were one, 2 surveys, both mailed and online, and we got a lot of responses from Asbury residents, 4 public forums, and 2 joint work sessions with the Mayor and City Council and Planning Commission. And as we sort of talked about during that focus group, while the mall, made up of 5 owners over 8 parcels and 102 acres, when you take the ponds out, the master plan's really focusing redevelopment-wise on about 86.5 acres. So where are we? So the draft plan, as you guys are well aware, was released for the required 60 days of public comment on March 19th, and the joint public hearing on this master plan is scheduled for June 7th. Again, sort of as you guys are aware, the master plan was laid out into 9 sections, with the sections 4 through 9, including a narrative discussing the topic, recommendations, and special conditions. And I left this abridged slide in because I want to explain real fast for you, in case it wasn't quite evident, the difference between special conditions and recommendations. The state law lays it out that master plan recommendations, redevelopment is to basically comply or conform. So there's a little bit of interpretation with that. There's some gray area, that gives some discretion. Special conditions are subject to a separate public hearing, and they must be strictly adhered to. So whatever is written, as you went through the document and you saw a special condition, any development that comes in per that master plan must, be in strict adherence to that. There's no real gray area of interpretation. So that's an important distinction to think about as you reviewed the plan. Now, obviously, having gone through the sections and speaking to my friend Spence this morning, I'm not doing the full 20-minute presentation. We're not going to go through every section. So I'm really going to jump more towards the end to help you guys. So here's where we are in the process and what the next steps are. So we're in the current 60-day comment period. In June, as we mentioned, is the joint public hearing. After the public hearing is when the master plan can be revised. And what's important to note is any revisions to the master plan are at the discretion and the direction of the Planning Commission and Council. Staff will not be unilaterally changing the master plan. So what we're going to happen is over these 60 days, we're going to receive comments. We're going to try to organize the comments in some fashion for the public hearing to make it easy for the Planning Commission and the Council to disseminate what was talked about. We may make some recommendations, if we see common themes or trends throughout the comments, but we will not be changing the document unless we're directed to do so by the Planning Commission and Council. All those changes will occur prior to July when it goes to the Planning Commission. Under the state of Maryland, it's actually the Planning Commission who approves a master plan. It's not the council. The council in August can adopt the plan that is approved by the Planning Commission. So that's an important distinction to make. And then on August 17th, as we talked about, during the focus group time period, there's a development moratorium. So we're hoping, fingers crossed, that the master plan is adopted, prior to the expiration of the moratorium. So the very last slide, and I'll just leave it up for a little bit. Not that you guys weren't already aware, the project page is still active. Here is the link, and the record. So everything we've received during the 60-day comment period is posted on that project page under the formal record. So you guys can track, what's going on. The recordings of the various meetings, such as this one, will be posted to that site under the record. And again, you can still submit comments or questions as you could during the focus group time to lakeforestmp@gaithersburgmd.gov. And I would like to make you guys aware, if you guys wish to amend your statement or you as individuals have some additional comments you'd like to submit, everything we receive by May 21st is ensured to be included in the joint public hearing packet for the Planning Commission and Council's review. Every exhibit while the record's open will be accepted, but if you want to guarantee that those two bodies see your comments prior to the joint public hearing, May 21st is the cutoff date. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I know Spence and you guys want to walk through your comments. We're here. We're happy to answer any questions of a technical variety for clarification purposes, but we're not here to debate stuff. So, if you ask us, what does this mean? We're happy to answer. If we go, how could you do this? We're not really going to opine on things like that. So with that, I'm actually going to turn it back over to my friends here from Asbury.
Okay, thank you, Rob, very much. That was very helpful. It'd probably be good if you could send us those slides just so we have what all the deadlines are. I think that's very, very helpful. Michelle and I've developed a very, a little agenda for this. I'm going to walk through each of the sections of the focus group. The plan, that the notes from the future Asbury. I will stop after each section, see if any of the members of the future Asbury have any comments that we missed. And then I will go through each of those. Then we'll open it up to others on the call who are not part of the future pack here. And then any other final comments and next steps, Rob, you can take over, and we'll do this in an hour. So I'll do my best to keep us on time. Is that okay for an agenda for this?
Sounds great.
Hearing nothing. Thank you. Good. I think generally, and I think I speak for everybody on the future pack committee, we all agree that the plan was very comprehensive and pretty much addressed all the major issues that we felt probably needed to be addressed. We were particularly pleased to see the incorporation of the demographics, the diversity of race, age, and incomes in the community being reflected in the plan, which I thought were, this is a very diverse community. One to make sure that the whatever goes on over there reflects that, and should retain the same type of diversity. We were also very happy about the mixed use, providing housing, jobs, commercial, and civic, and those were all things that we felt were incredibly important. On the general recommendations, we generally agreed with the plan recommendations, particularly the Whoever's coughing, could you mute yourself? Oh, Susan, I guess that's you. Thanks. The how important we thought, and this goes back to what I said before, the connectivity with the Lake Forest development should really connect to the local community, other housing, the people who live here, the community is really, and should reflect that community. We agreed with the integrated and coordinated mixed uses of housing, commercial, recreation, and all the different pieces we thought were really, really important. We were particularly interested in the creative use of open spaces, particularly the ponds. We think the ponds are really an incredible asset. And I know can't take them away, but they're really important to build on and use and incorporate into the final piece of work that goes on there. And we felt that was very important. We also want to emphasize the flexibility in the plan and how important it was to be flexible. And I'll talk about that a little later. The mall's landscape, architecture, the landscaping and the services should reflect diverse cultures and ethnic characteristics of the surrounding communities. Then I'm going to go into the amenities and others. And if any members of the future pack have anything we missed or anything you want to say about the kind of general recommendations? Okay, hearing none. The green space, we think 35% green space being creatively used with the ponds is probably just about right, with pocket parks and other kinds of things. Plant as many trees as possible. We need lots of trees. We want to make sure that we keep up the trees. And we also were interested in the civic use facilities, whatever those might be there, as incorporated into the plan itself. Transportation, probably the one thing that we really lifted up as a potential issue for people at Asbury was the transit center. The plan spoke to the possibility of moving the transit center someplace else, either on that site or someplace else. We were very concerned about that because of the large number of residents and associates here at Asbury who use that, who use the transit center. Michelle actually agreed to survey all the associates here at Asbury and the residents here at Asbury to determine how many people actually use the transit center. And so we get a good idea of its use, so we can make a good argument for not moving it if a lot of people.
We will be providing those results for the record. Good.
Yeah, that's already gone on. If people haven't already responded to Michelle Potter's survey, I think it went out from Jeannie. Well, they should do it right away and tell them.
We had 170 responses in 90 minutes.
So that's terrific. That is terrific. So let me stop on the green space and transportation. Are any comments on those two that from the? Okay, you guys are easy.
Or real fast, Spence, are there any questions, folks, related
to these?
Questions was there something that you just wanted some clarification on to understand what we were presenting?
Anybody?
Yeah, can I add? This is Jack. I see I'm not on view there. It isn't clear to me, and I don't know that it matters, whether the pond across the street from Russell is part of when you refer to the ponds in the plan.
Yes, it is, sir. That is part. That's the actual 15 acre. That's a sizable 15 acres, almost 15 acre site. It's like 8 acres actually. So yes, that is included. So when we discuss the 3 ponds, that is one of them.
Thank you.
And and Rob, let me ask you a question. It was unclear. I'm sorry, my phone is ringing. It's unclear. How much can those be expanded at all? Is it possible to take other parts of property that aren't part of the mall around those ponds to expand recreation areas? Is that a possibility?
Under the auspices of this master plan, it's not addressing that. I'm not saying anything's, impossible, but again, I think one of the things that we discussed sort of in the master plan, and as we discussed during the focus group, the real challenge with these ponds is they're regional stormwater facilities. So they cover large drainage areas. So really any tweaking or changing that you do with the pond is going to involve Maryland Department of the Environment. And, they're typically loath to begin doing whole scale changes, especially for aesthetics.
Good, yeah, okay. Any other questions on those two areas? Okay, thanks. Residential, we had a long conversation around the residential. We were particularly interested in the multifamily and affordable housing piece of it, that it was critical that it be incorporated into the plan. We talked a lot about the missing middle housing. And I've been doing housing work for probably 40 years. I never heard that term before, so it was kind of interesting to look it up and study that. The missing middle, as I understand it and explained it to people, it's not low income housing and it's not high income housing. It's basically worker housing for middle income.
To help, it deals with housing affordability, not necessarily regulated affordable housing. So that's an important discrepancy. It is housing that's either rental or for sale that fills a gap. So it addresses a market segment that can't necessarily afford large townhomes or single family detached homes, but have the means to not be limited to solely living in a multifamily apartment. So oftentimes it's things like the triplexes or the 2-over-2s. So oftentimes they're set up in smaller condominium regimes, but it allows a price point that can attract, Spence, to sort of your point. I don't want to use terms like workforce housing because that brings in regulatory, but it fills in a missing price point and serves an area of the housing market that traditional multifamily apartments or single family detached homes or typical townhomes don't serve.
Good. Okay. We were in favor of 8 to 10 stories. We felt that the buildings across the street at Asbury were that tall, and an 8 to 10 story building on the site would not be out of sync with the rest of the community. So we felt that to get the kind of numbers of housing and the size and what we're looking for, some 8 to 10 stories would be good. We were very strong, and we don't want cookie cutter design of housing, more mixed design of housing, different kinds of housing. If you're having a number of 3 or 4 or 5 story condominium housing, have them look different architecturally, look different in there. I know that'll be an issue we'll have to raise with whoever the final developer is, but that was something we were very interested in. We also were very supportive of affordability. For the most part, we need more affordable housing, family housing in the area, and need good mixed housing. Although we didn't talk about this, I looked it up. Using inclusionary zoning and the county MPDU housing opportunities to fill some of those needs we felt were important. Have you looked at all inclusionary zoning in this?
We have it, my friend. We have our own affordable housing ordinance, which is inclusionary zoning. So,
okay.
Just so the group is aware, for rental, it's 15%. And for be simple, for ownership, it's 7.5% MPDUs and 7.5% workforce.
Okay. I wasn't aware of those, but that's good. That's good to know. Anybody want to share anything on residential? Everybody read the plan and incorporated it all, right? Okay. Commercial, which is the next section. We were very interested in the job creation potential at different wage levels. We thought was important, and I think that was in the plan. Job opportunities for upperly mobile residents, we thought was very important. Not just all McDonald's pay level jobs, but a mixed type of jobs where people could move up in a particular business. Also very interested in non-traditional commercial space, and we spent some time talking about that, like incubators uh, for nonprofits or for businesses, or pottery shops, or other kind of non-commercial types of commercial activities. We thought was really, was really going to be good. Was mixed support on the big box stores. Some people didn't want them, some people did, not necessarily did, but certainly understood that the finances around their name need to be a big box store there to make it financially feasible. So we didn't want to take it out altogether as something we weren't interested in. And that if the existing big box store in the area here is going to move, which we understand they're thinking about because they don't like where they are, Costco I'm talking about, we'd rather have it stay in the community as opposed to go up to someplace else away from where we are. Very strongly supporting no filling stations, no auto service centers, no auto sales, no warehousing, and no outdoor storage facilities on the commercial side. Anybody had any other comments on the commercial end of it? Rob, we have a little bit of time. Talk a little bit about non-traditional commercial space, how you thought about, how the city thought about the non-traditional commercial space.
Sure. As outgrowth of a lot of the focus groups and the studies, and especially pre-pandemic, we acknowledged and even had in the fact sheets the decline of traditional brick and mortar retail and office. But we wanted to support things, and a lot of things, including your focus group, talked about that you wanted a lot of quote unquote experiential retail. You wanted to be able to do something when you went on this site. It's not just, you didn't want to just come on the site, buy your pair of tennis shoes, then leave the site. You wanted to have something that engaged all these various demographics and kept them going. A number of years ago, maybe 3 or 5 years ago, I can't remember, we did a text amendment to introduce integrated light manufacturing. And this is a term we developed, but this covers uses like microbreweries and chocolatiers, and again, the craft sort of things. So more and more people are affording opportunities. Also, the growth of biotech in this region. As you guys may be aware, Novavax, Gaithersburg's own Novavax is going for, vaccination approval and next week, I believe, with the FDA. So there's, that's a hot market. So we should be building off that. Up until, traditionally over the last 25 years, mixed use typically in the city was, traditional retail and traditional apartments with some townhomes. We really wanted to expand beyond that. So when we're thinking about the non-residential components, we really want to envision a mix of potential uses. So one, we're not putting all of our eggs in one sector basket, and especially a sector that over time may show itself not to be sustainable, where we have to redo this master plan, in 10 years because everything that came in doesn't work. And two, to help, allow people different experiences going through. So we think there's a lot of opportunities. This was an outgrowth really of, some of the studies that the city had done, but also a lot really from the focus groups. We sort of heard this universally. And Spence, I just want to, just for clarification points, the master plan does not preclude big box stores.
Yeah.
What it precludes is suburban style development of big box stores. So
what does that mean?
So the large, 70,000 square foot single story in a sea of surface parking.
Oh, okay.
What we're looking for is the big box, the Target that's found in Washingtonian. We were the very first city that held the line and made them build a 2-story Target with structured parking. So it can be done. We want to encourage, things like this, and the plan doesn't preclude it. So I would just want to make sure there's, it's a subtle distinction, but it is a distinction. We're just trying to get away from, large sucks, when there's only 86 acres, we don't want, potentially, an eighth or a 16th of it taken up with one retailer and their surface parking lot. So that's just a subtle distinction.
Yeah, I think we're really clear. Everybody doesn't want, a lot of parking. They don't want concrete and you know, a lot of, you know, parking like that. That's that's what it is now. And that's not what we want. Anybody else have questions on the commercial or what Rob explained? Okay. Let me move on to the last part of the plan, the master plan implementation. We were very concerned about the phased implementation that the plan raised up of developing one piece here and then 5 years later another piece here. We would highly prefer a developer that's going to do the whole thing, or be, you know, work with a housing developer and others to, you know, to do the whole thing as opposed to doing a piece of it and then doing the next piece along, you know, in a period. We also were very, we would encourage the city to look at a single holistic development application to move this ahead as quickly as possible. We're concerned that we were also very concerned that the city may be making it very difficult on a developer to purchase up the other pieces. This is a very complicated deal, as you all know. And I think the more that the city can do to help whoever the developers are, and I'm not speaking for anyone, but whoever the developer who comes in on this is going to have to buy up the other pieces, and they're going to need as much help and support from the city as quickly as possible to be able to buy up the other pieces that they need, and they're going to need the financing to do that. And that's any roadblocks that are put up on that, I think, is a serious problem. We were also worried that the other owners who now own those, like Macy's and, you know, JCPenney's and others, while they're sitting around with these pieces of property that they're doing, you know, they're not making any income on, are going to put them out for long-term lease. And they will lease them to automobile showrooms or repair stores or other kinds of things that dollar stores that aren't going to be really helpful to our community. And if those kind of long-term leases get put into place, it's going to be very difficult for any developer to come in and buy them up. Or much more expensive. So we were concerned about about that. We don't want to wait 10 or 20 years. We're all old people for the most part. We're not going to be around here in 20 years. We probably don't want to listen to a lot of construction across the way over a 20-year period while different pieces are being put together. So we are very concerned that this move ahead as quickly as possible, that it not take 10 or 20 years, that the city be as flexible as they possibly can with whatever developer comes in and is interested in developing this. And I think flexibility and openness in the city is absolutely critical. That's pretty much all we put down in our report. Anybody say so? You got your hand up. You want to unmute yourself?
A general question. How is the zoning in that area would interfere with what we are proposing here? That's one question. And the other is, when does the developer, who after all is going to have to build this whole thing, when do they come into this conversation and how to go about that? Those are questions that I don't know anything about.
Sure. So right now the mall is currently zoned C2, which is general commercial. And it's been that since it was developed in the 70s. What that allows is basically all the uses you have here. It allows some office uses, but to fully realize the master plan and things like residential, they must rezone. So as I said in that first slide, what is the role of the master plan? That's why we recommend MXD, because that affords a variety of uses. To Spence's comment, related to phasing and all of that, we understand, we voice similar concerns in the narrative and the similar desires in the narrative of the post master plan thing. but these are legal rights they already have. They can backfill these properties, tomorrow, regardless of whether the master plan's adopted or not. That's their legal right. It is existing vested plans and zoning. As I mentioned, the master plan only comes into play if there's new subdivision or if there is rezoning of the property. So, let's keep that in mind. Cesar, to your point of, when developers come in, should the master plan get adopted? Whoever, whatever, party or parties decide to do something, they would submit a rezoning application. And this is where the post master plan talks about that we want a minimum of 10 acres exclusive of the pond areas. And the reason we did that is the MXD zone, which we're recommending rezoning, the minimum acreage in order to rezone to MXD is 10 acres. But we wanted to make sure that the first rezoning wasn't the 15 acres of ponds, and then somebody could just come in, with the McDonald's. We wanted to make sure that, to a lot of the stuff that you folks have talked about, that the first application reflects, a mix of uses. That 10 acres, they have to show a lot. They're going to have to show, potential different uses. They're going to have to show some green space. They're going to have to show, what they're beginning to envision with the road network. So it's really going to be in response to the master plan after it's adopted. However, in the near term, and as we mentioned to council in the last work session, projects like this are very expensive. So sometimes, we want to deal with one single holistic plan. That would be the greatest thing ever. But it's expensive to do these things. So some of these people may need to have interim uses under the existing C2 in order to build up capital, or wait for markets and financing to be put into place to begin to actualize the master plan. So if they do that, that is a different application that would go to the planning commission under the current zoning. So that's just a straight site plan amendment. So that's really where it fits. There's a bunch of other things to talk about. Well, there's a bunch of other issues, amongst the owners, but the city's not a party to some of those agreements. That's amongst the owners to work out. So if one owner prevents another owner from doing something, we really don't have we don't have input on that because we're not a party to those agreements.
Spence.
Yes.
Rob, I have a question about the Planning Commission. Is that an elected group, and what is its track record vis-a-vis master plans? Do they tend to approve them, change them, and are they open to any outside influence?
They're not open to any outside influence. We have a great planning commission. They are appointed by the mayor and city council. The bulk of our planning commissioners have been on board greater than 15 years now. They are architects, they are multifamily developers, they are, I'm sorry, just from a wide cross section of industries. They know this business. They have done master plans. Yes, they have directed staff to change stuff. They do read the record. They are not swayed necessarily by certain things because, again, they're tasked with the same role as we are under the land use article to think about it in terms of what is best for the city. But yeah, they have directed staff to change a number of master plans over time. This whole master plan process is not a rubber stamp.
Bill Hicks.
Yeah, can I ask kind of a fundamental, or what may be a fundamental question? When a master plan like this is developed, is there any financial study done that says this master plan is financially viable the way it is written? Is that any part of the planning process that we put down something that somebody can financially find to be a viable proposal?
So there's two ways to answer this. For this specific one, no, because this one is not a design plan. Our original proposal for this master plan was to do a special study area 2 years ago that had design plans. And part of that was a very detailed market analysis. If you do actual design plans where it's not, so again, simplifying, this master plan explains the what, sometimes the how, but not the where. If you have a plan that says the where, you should be doing a fiscal impact analysis and a market study to make sure that it's viable.
Other questions, other comments? Everybody's read the plan and memorized it all?
I have a question.
Yes, Luann.
Is there any part of the plan that directly addresses the arts? Either public art that would be in display on the green spaces, or incorporating some type of art, perhaps drama centers, someplace similar to what the Gaithersburg little park has near the post office, where there's like a little dome or a little half circle, where you can have a stage and have performances like that. Is there any place that seems that could be a viable option?
So going back to the first slide, and thank you, Luann, for the question, because I think it's a great one. As I explained, the master plan is composed of various elements. This master plan does not specifically call for it, but 2 years ago, working with a person you know well, Michelle Potter, we developed a Parks, Rec, and Culture master plan. And in fact, in that master plan, it makes recommendations for uses like that in future development. So this is why master plans are sort of required under the state to be synergistic with each other. They're not, while one may deal with a specific topic, the broader things are to carry forward through the other elements. So Luann, to your question, while this master plan, broadly talks about civic uses, which could include the arts, we don't weigh in on what is the most appropriate. But we do have this other master plan that says we should be exploring, and I think, Michelle could probably help me. I think we even identified that there are certain areas on the east side where these things should be incorporated within the park system. So it's there, it's just not there in this master plan.
So I can also help explain that a little bit too. So in the master plan, there is the civic space. So that's not defined. So it could be a public-private partnership like you see at Black Rock and Germantown that is dedicated to the arts, or like the Arts Barn that is located in Gaithersburg and the Kentlands. And then the city of Gaithersburg has a robust art and public places program. So we would see some art there. And in the letter that I sent, I incorporated that it would be really nice to have some type of little amphitheater space outside, like you see at Spectrum. It doesn't even need to be large, but I use that as an example, that it would be nice to have some type of community space outside like that. So thank you for bringing that up, Luann.
And again, as we talked about with the amenity space, when we talked about the green spaces, we even say in the master plan, they should have an experiential component, that, the green spaces should be a variety of things. So these uses fit right in with that.
Yeah, Rob, another thing that we talked a little bit about that I didn't lift up here is, and it goes along with the recreation and arts thing, space for youth, space for young people to play and have activities and, whatever. So we thought that was also important.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions, comments? Those are good, very good comments. Any other? Yes, Liz, unmute yourself. Good.
I did not read all 600 plus pages. I haven't heard comments about environmental things like, charging stations, solar panels, pavers, anything like that. Is that part of this plan?
Charging stations are discussed under the transportation section. Much as we just had a discussion about the Parks, Rec, and Culture, we also have a wonderful environment and sustainability element. And we are one of the forefront jurisdictions in the state to incorporate sustainability into the master plan. So we, a lot of that is covered there. We have a green building ordinance that needs to be abided by. We have stormwater management regs. So a lot of these details don't really get worked out at the master plan stage. It's more when development plans actually come in where you have to begin working the engineering. But again, this other master plan element encourages all those things, Liz, into future development.
Other questions? Well, Rob, you want anything else you want to lift up for us, or?
I really appreciate everybody reading. It was great to have a meeting where I didn't have to pretend like nobody's ever heard of this
Oh, we
master
read
plan
it.
before.
We
So
went
that
over
was
page by page.
no, you guys had great detailed comments. So again, following up, based upon the conversation today, just remember if you guys want to amend statements or, if Michelle completes her, transit use survey, things like that, May 21st is the linchpin date. Send anything to that Lake Forest MP at gaithersburgmd.gov. Again, if you want to review, if you, for some reason, like to look at yourself on camera, hopefully by middle of next week, this recording will be posted on the project page so you can watch yourself. I hate it personally, but, it is what it is. So it's all of those things. And again, even if you have an additional question, email us, stay engaged through this process. But target dates, May 21st, deadline to ensure inclusion in the packet, June 7th, joint public hearing. Testimony will be taken during the public hearing also. So, you have another opportunity then during that meeting.
And Rob, we have to sign up at the hearing?
Yes, through the city's website. I don't control the public hearings, so they have the process for signing up to speak during a public hearing through the city's website.
So it would probably be a good idea for us as an organization to sign up and share our views at the public
You'll be
hearing.
limited to 3 minutes, just to make you aware.
I know. Okay, I won't take more than 3 or whatever.
Okay, gotcha.
It'll be hard. Okay, unless anybody else has any comments, I want to thank everybody.
Spence and I will continue to send the information out. Rob, if you want to send us the slide.
Sure, not a problem at all. I can either send you the abridged that you saw today, or I can send you the entire presentation.
Whichever you prefer. More information is probably better. And then we'll send the information out for everyone in this group to participate in, to watch the hearings or sign up for testimony.
Excellent, excellent. Again, thank you guys for inviting us.
And thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Yes,
All right.
thank you. Thank you, City. Thank you, Spence.
Take care, everyone. Nice seeing you
Bye-bye.
again.
Bye-bye.